All right, joining me now is the distinguished former Secretary of State, Mike Pompeo. He is also a Fox News contributor. Secretary, welcome back. It's great to see you. Merry Christmas, sir. Vladimir Putin was on today, Sunday, in Russia, saying he's going to ponder a slew of options if the West fails to meet his push for security guarantees, precluding NATO's expansion to Ukraine. And then, Secretary, he says, what are the options? It will depend on what proposals our military experts submit to me, our military experts. Secretary, how do you read this story?
Well, Larry, good morning. Thanks for having me on today, and Merry Christmas to you and everyone watching this morning. Those words from Vladimir Putin are consistent with what he said a couple days ago as well. He is clearly coercively trying to use his military to gain significant advantage over Europe and the West. I read them as serious threats. I also, Larry, read them against the backdrop that you described, against the backdrop of where the Russians closed down a pipeline inside the United States. Don't forget they shut down the Colonial Pipeline. That was this year. It seems like a long time ago. And then they watched us abandon Afghanistan in a way that caused the death of 13 Americans. They watched us allow him to continue to build this pipeline, right? We gave it to him. The Nord Stream 2 pipeline, I think the actions you see him taking, the words you saw him say just today in Russia are consistent with his belief that we have weak leadership, we have the absence of resolve, and so he's going to push us as far as he can. He does not, Larry, for 1 minute. Don't let that language of, well, we'll see what proposals they say they're prepared to engage in to protect Russia. He doesn't for a moment believe that the Poles or the Lithuanians or the Latvians or the Estonians are going to invade his country. This is about power. This is about Vladimir Putin. They have a capable military, a hypersonic program that is truly capable. We've seen their cyber options here in the U.S. They've impacted us already. This takes American leadership. We have to put America first, and we need to demand that the Europeans do the work that they need to do to protect and secure their sovereign borders as well.
You know, Mike, one of the things that bothers me about this story is every time we get a statement from the State Department or the National Security Council, they did a conference call last week with a bunch of reporters. They always say, if Russia takes military actions, then will USA do this, that, and the other thing. Why do we put ourselves on that defensive? I mean, for example, Lindsey Graham says we should have across-the-board sanctions, banking, energy, resources, oligarchs right now. And in fact, I'll ask you, Senator Ted Cruz has an amendment which would restore the Nord Stream 2 pipeline operations, the sanctions on those operations, and we can still do great harm there. That may be voted on, I don't know, this week or next week. Do you support the Ted Cruz option? And why didn't we do sanctions first and then use that as a negotiating tool?
Larry, you were in the room as we were talking about Nord Stream 2 pipeline for, 18, 19 months, where we made clear we weren't going to allow that pipeline to be completed. Vladimir Putin didn't mass soldiers on his border in the face of that determination and resolve. Your point's exactly right. I haven't seen the details of Senator Cruz's amendment. I know he's cared a lot about this issue. He's been at the forefront of trying to put sanctions in place to deny the Russians the ability to control Germany's energy industry and the capacity for them to heat homes in places like Binlach and Bayreuth and Nuremberg in Germany. I hope the Senate will pass this. I hope the Biden administration won't need it. They'll just do it on their own as they should have. These are the kinds of things. You defend your sovereignty. You draw out very clear markers so that the other side knows the things you care about, the things the American people care about. And then it comes time. We should never give an inch on the things that matter most to America, but there are places with the Russians where we can work together, and we ought to do that, but you can't do it from a place of deference and appeasement, Larry.
Well, yeah, thank you for that. Look, I don't understand here, too. How can the United States ever agree to allowing Russia's argument that no more NATO countries, no more EU countries? If Ukraine and, I don't know, Georgia, Belarus, or any of those countries, if they want to come to Western democracy and free market capitalism, we can't let Putin dictate no. We can never agree with that, it seems to me. What's your take on it?
This has been part of the American project. We want to expand democracy. We want to expand those countries that will trade with us on a fair trading system. We want to grow the number of human beings that have the capacity to practice their faith across the world. We want ever more people to have more human rights and to be sovereign in their own country. Let Georgia, let Ukraine make the decisions for themselves. We've been working on this for a long time. Those of us in the conservative movement, Larry, you and I, the Reagan agenda was very clear about how this would move forward. The destruction, the fall of the Soviet Union now, 30 years on, is very clearly something that's on Vladimir Putin's mind. He wants to build it back. We can't permit that to happen. It's not in America's best interest. And we can't give the kinds of guarantees that Vladimir Putin is asking for. I don't think he really expects that we will, but I do think he believes that he can coerce this administration and cause them to give him things just by showing force and power and resolve in a way that this administration has not demonstrated its willingness to do.
Can I shift gears, Secretary, to the proposed Iranian talks, which I think start, I don't know, tomorrow or this week. And Iran has just thrown a lot of missiles over Israel, maybe a dozen missiles over Israel as some kind of, quote, warning, end quote. I don't understand why we would be even thinking about renegotiating with Iran, which has violated every treaty and has been building nuclear weapons all during this period of so-called treaties. President Trump cut the treaty off. They're still going at it. Why are we negotiating with Iran? Where's that going to lead?
Larry, it's incomprehensible to me. It's incomprehensible to most Americans who understand that the Ayatollah wants to wipe Israel off the face of the earth. That's the little Satan, and he wants to make America go away too. We're the second one, the big Satan. Why you would negotiate with these folks who have demonstrably indicated that they're not going to abide by any agreement they sign? The only way to deal with a tyrant, the only way to deal with the Ayatollah is maximum pressure. Deny them the resources to conduct terror campaigns. Deny them the resources to threaten Israel with Hezbollah or the missiles that you talked about, or the rockets that they fire every single day into the kingdom of Saudi Arabia. Every single day, dozens of drones and rockets crossing their border. We would never tolerate that on our border. And yet the Iranians get away with it in the world, including the Russians and the Chinese, who are part of the P5 negotiations that will take place in Vienna, where the United States will be this week, trying to negotiate with these thugs, these theocrats, these individuals who have no more idea of making peace and resolve in the Middle East than a man in the moon. And so we shouldn't be negotiating with them. We should be applying pressure. We should increase the sanctions. We should deny them money and resources. And when we do, we will bring the regime to a place where we'll have to make impossible decisions, and it'll have to behave in a way that's consistent with what we know we demand of every country all across the world. The Iranians can't be permitted to continue to build their nuclear program, Larry. It will put Israel in a terribly difficult spot.
And just last one. Maria Bartiromo spoke to President Trump, I believe, last Sunday. And this goes to China and the Olympics. I hope we can play that sound for you.
Would you have boycotted the 2022 China Olympics?
No, because I watched Jimmy Carter do it, and it was terrible. It was terrible. Hurts the athletes. There are much more powerful things we can do than that. Much, much more powerful things. That's not a powerful thing. It almost makes us look like, I don't know, sore losers. We're doing so badly. Maria, our country is no longer respected. No, I wouldn't do that. I'd like to see our great athletes go over and win every single medal.
Secretary, in our last minute, some people in China are saying after the Olympics they're going to invade Taiwan. But the question here is, President Trump says no boycott by the athletes. Do you agree with that?
No, I would have recommended to the president, were I his Secretary of State today, that we not send our athletes into this terribly difficult place where they're going to be forced to be silent, to not speak as Americans, where Xi Jinping will be put on the global stage and lauded as a great leader while he's holding 1 million Americans in concentration camps. I don't think we should be participating. I don't think the IOC, the Olympic Committee, should have permitted Xi Jinping to host these games. It is a tragedy that these genocide Olympics appear to be moving forward now 45 days or so from now. It's a blight on the IOC, and it puts our athletes in an incredibly difficult position, Larry.
All right. Thank you, former Secretary of State Mike Pompeo. Merry Christmas. Happy New Year, sir. Thanks for your great work.
Hi, everyone. I'm Brian Kilmeade. I want you to do me a favor. I want you to click to subscribe to the Fox News YouTube page. This is the only way that I know for sure that you're not going to miss any great commentary, any great news bites, any great interviews coming your way on Fox. You can get it all here on YouTube. So subscribe right now.